Hey, did you guys hear that Marvel made 40K comics or published them? Yeah, that was a thing that happened, I think, a few years ago. I forget the exact date. And I was really pumped for it. I mean, like, really, really pumped for it. I was, like, so excited to see what they would do. And, well, I know vaguely what they did. They did, like, a Ultramarine comic and a Sturbal comic, and that's fine and all. I have nothing against that. In fact, I'm kind of cool with it. I haven't read them or anything, but I was disappointed because I was expecting something completely different. Like, when I hear that Marvel's going to be making 40K comics, I think, oh my, this is where we get the Marvel 40K crossover I've always dreamed about. And yes, well, actually, I've never dreamed about that. My dreams are all nightmares, but that's not the point. The point is that I thought it was a really cool premise that if Marvel was making 40K comics, we could get a cool crossover. In fact, not just a crossover, since I mentioned comics, I was thinking we'd get crossovers, be this big, spectacular event where we get all these different kind of books, and it'd be really fun. And I'm just telling you this right now, Disney, Marvel, 40K, if you're listening, I would literally, as long as it was even somewhat well written, I would buy a Marvel 40K crossover comic. I'd probably buy the entire run, just so I could have it on my shelf. But, that's all semantics. However, it got me thinking. I thought about this because I was in the misconception, like I said, they were going to be crossover comics instead. But I thought for a long time, what would I want to see if they did a Marvel 40K crossover? And honestly, there's a lot you could do. Now, I want to preface this immediately. I don't want any of this to be canon, in the sense that it takes place in the main universe. Marvel, I think, could get away with it a bit better, but 40K would be a mess after it. I mean, I'm not saying that most people in Marvel aren't overpowered enough that I think it would break the setting or create weird lore issues. I just don't want it to be a thing, because then it gets into weird rights issues. I want all of this to be officially non-canon. And before people say, Marvel's never done a crossover like this, Marvel did a crossover with Attack on Titan once. That's official. That's a thing you can go read. Anyway, but that's beyond the point. The point is, but what would you actually do? That's all fine dandy, but what would the crossover be? Well, first thing, preface out of the way, there are some people out there who act as if 40K is so ridiculously powerful that no one else in a different fiction could ever dare touch it. Now listen, yes, there is some lore that says that things are really powerful. There's also lore that also grounds it in a way that makes them powerful, but a lot more believable. And superhero characters are notorious for being ridiculously powerful if you do any kind of calculations on them. I assure you, whatever you think a Space Marine or Primer could do, the Hulk can match it. I'm just saying that right now, so let's not worry about power levels. Also, all this is non-canon, so any power level issue can simply be fixed because it's not canon. Anyway, let's get that all the way. So the first thing that immediately came to my mind when I thought crossover time, I was thinking, oh cool, we're going to see the Marvel characters in 40K. And the immediate way you think is, oh, well, what would be the version of that character? Like, well, obviously some of them would be pretty simple. Captain America would just be an Ultramarine. Hulk would probably be an Orc. That kind of stuff. However, I, of course, being me, immediately jumped to, it's the characters from the main universe, or a universe just like it, into the 40K universe, like they got teleported there. And there's a lot you could do with that premise, just because, A, you get to see these characters interact with, stuff in 40K in a very interesting way, and it helps explain to the audience stuff about 40K, who, let's be honest, if you're picking up a Marvel comic, you'll likely know more about the Marvel characters than you do 40K. So, someone like Captain America or the Hulk or whatever having to ask questions about how things work to understand what's going on is perfect, because then, someone explains it to them, and thereby the audience who might not be as well informed on 40K lore, especially because due to its contradictory nature at points, it helps to know which one we're working off of. Now, what would you have? Well, I'd do some basic stuff. I would have, like, Captain America, Time Portal, or maybe his Iceman takes a lot longer, and he wakes up in 40K, and he sides with the Imperium for a while, but you would turn against it, have some issues, or maybe work to reform it, but that'd be an interesting premise. Tony, I can't imagine him siding with anyone or ending up anywhere but with the Tau. But just imagine him joining the Farsight Enclaves. Just imagine that. He'd be able to modify his suits with Tau tech, or maybe in other 40K tech. He'd probably get one of those cool swords that the Farsight Enclave has. Like, just imagine how epic that would be. Hulk, he has to land on an Orc planet. He has to get there on an Orc planet. Like, just so we can have, like, the cover. I can just imagine this in my head. It's burnt into my head, okay? Is the comic page of the cover of it being like the Hulk, and he's like standing in a crowd of orcs, and it's like the text is like, is he man or orc? or maybe both. And there's some orc over there being like, he's the biggest orc, and just like that. Like, that brings me charm, and I would read an entire run of comics just to get that cover. If anyone makes that fan art of that cover, I will happily show it in a video. But Thor, I don't know what Thor would be. You could place him anywhere else, maybe on Space Wolf land. Then, they can fight some Space Wolves. Who doesn't want to see that? Hawkeye, I would want him to end up with the Eldar, and I think it'd be hilarious him getting to archery matches or that kind of thing with them. Black Widow could either end up in the Dark Eldar or the Sisters of Silence. Sorry, not Sisters of Silence. Sisters of Battle. Sorry, them too, I guess. But, L4 characters go like this. Spider-Man ends up on Necromunda. That will be fun. I would love to see him just going to town on the Necromunda games. Goliath ain't got nothing on Spider-Man. But, Ant-Man ends up on a Tyranid-infested planet and ends up taking control of them. And I imagine the big climactic thing to this, if all these were tied together somehow, is that all the characters meet commanding their respective armies. And it looks like they're all gonna fight. It's gonna be this big thing. And then it cuts to Deadpool and Spider-Man, playing a tabletop 40k with Deadpool showing up all these figures, the characters, like, modified figures to be the different people from real 40k. And Spider-Man's just like, Deadpool, that isn't legal. You can't play that. And Deadpool's like, I promise you I can. I got straight from Games Workshop. And Spider-Man's like, no, you didn't. None of that happened. And then right, the last page of it is all the characters that got sent on that adventure walking into the room covered in, like, wounds in their armor from 40k. And the Spider-Man's just in shock. And Deadpool yelling, yeah, I was right, son. That I just really want that, okay? I just really want that. I think it'd be hilarious. But that's the obvious one. It's obvious to just take, nice Marvel character in 40k and see what happens. It will be entertaining as heck. But you could do a bit more than that. Like, for instance, we could get a bit more creative. Like, what if when the Primarchs were scattered, they got switched out for roughly corresponding Marvel characters? Like, Magnus got switched out with Doctor Strange, Gilliam with Captain America, etc., etc. Like, I don't know. That sounds like kind of dumb when I think about it. Or maybe just the characters that are taking on a bit of their personality. I don't know. It could be interesting with you. Or a combination character, like Captain Ultramar. I guess Captain. That might kind of look like. Just me. That could be really fun, in my opinion. Who would be Vulcan? But no. But then I thought, okay, we could put Marvel in 40k. But what if we put 40k in Marvel? Now, there's a few ways you could go about this. First, in the most generic version, but still probably the easiest and funnest, would be, oh no, army from 40k is invading Earth and only Marvel's greatest heroes can stop it. And you know what? It's dumb, but I'd read that. And you would read it too. You would totally read the adventures where the Space Marines attack modern Earth, and it's up to the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all those guys to stop them. And you know what? It'd be great too. But of course, I probably wouldn't have it be the Space Marines, unless you want to have a Primarch be like the final boss, and that could be pretty cool. But I'd probably say something like the Tyranids or the Orcs. The Tyranids I think would be good, as I think they would be a great fight for Marvel. But they don't have named characters, so it's not like you gotta be able to break them down and get a conversation out of them. So, and any army could really work, and I'd read any, really. I think the Tower would be the weakest, probably. But all that to say, that's pretty basic. Just place army in Earth and see what happens. But we could get a bit more creative than that. For instance, what if, like, say, a Primarch or some other named 40k character gets dropped on modern Earth of Marvel, and now all of a sudden they're a superhero? You know what I mean? Like, what if it's like, I don't know, insert whatever Primarch or main character you want just ends up on Earth and now they're something man. Like, they just hang out with the Avengers. Or what if one of the Primarchs also gets sent backwards in time and they land as a baby on the past of Marvel Earth? And they're doing the whole thing there. Maybe like one of the Lost Primarchs you could play with? Or heck, you probably do a lot with the Lost Primarchs when I think about it. But then I got even more creative. Like, then I do admit this one is a completely dumb idea. And what if the Chaos Gods or some splintered personality of them got sent back to modern Marvel and became superheroes? That would just be so... And that would have to be more of a comedic book, but it'd be hilarious, and you know it. Just seeing them interact in these really dumb ways. Once again, it benefits from it being non-canon, that we don't have to worry about, what it would actually say. And now we get to the big chongus, the big kahuna of Hanuhuna. Now, we're getting close to the end here, boys, but we don't stop until it gets good. Okay. Now, then I thought, let's get a bit more creative. First of all, I thought about the idea of mixing like the After End books, kind of like those series from Marvel, and you mix it with the Age of Strife on Terra, like just some short little stories about the Emperor fighting on Terra, and he sees like the old man Hulk or something, or like an AI suit left by Iron Man to try to defend like something, like I don't know what's left of Avengers Tower. Like, it's just something small like that could be fun. And of course, there's tons of smaller things you get, like what if Ultron met the Necrons? Well, actually, we'll find the Necrons, Marvel find that would be pretty fun too. Although they probably just end up getting combined with Ultron into Necroid Ultronus. I don't know. But then it hit me. It's often said in the 40k community, or just people who know 40k in general, that pretty much everybody in 40k is so objectively evil that if even the good guys like the Imperium or the Emperor or the Space Marines or whatever, if they were in literally any other fictional universe, they would be the supervillains the heroes are trying to stop. And you know what? How about we follow through in that saying? How about we actually give the story where the Emperor of Man, yes, the Emperor of Mankind from 40k gets to be the Marvel supervillain he was always destined to be. And yes, I'm fully suggesting that in all earnest, I would pay good money to read that. Like, just imagine the Emperor of Mankind fighting the heroes. It would be amazing. It would be fun. You could get all kinds of fun interactions. And the best part is he has a backstory reason to do it. This is just the Emperor in this universe, but he sees all the chaos happening on Earth so much earlier than it did in 40k that he decides now is his time to strike. Now, I'm not sure if he would be creating Thunder Warriors or creating actual Space Marines or the Primarchs or what his exact plan would be. But just imagine, he's the Emperor. That's the only thing he gets referred to by. He wants to destroy everything the Avengers hold dear, their heroes hold dear, and turn into a nightmarish dystopia ruled under by a pseudo-god Emperor. And yes, I know he wasn't trying to be a god Emperor yet, but, that's a small detail. You know what I mean? Just this horrible dystopic state. Because that's kind of what the Emperor is. He's perfect supervillain material. I mean, Marvel kind of has a rough equivalent, someone like, say, Apocalypse or maybe Dr. Sinister, but especially Apocalypse, or maybe even Thanos. But just think about it. It could be so much fun. Heck, you could do all kinds of things to justify how it works. I would just say that this is the Emperor from, like I said, the Earth's past, before he's, like, the 40k Emperor. And they can even have it be his final suit up as, like, him suiting up in the golden armor. You know what I mean? Just for one, like, epic showdown where, like, all the big hitters have to go take him out. And, like, you could just do... Anyway, it's just the whole thing. But all this to say, these are all cool, really epic ideas that I love. And I just don't understand why Marvel didn't work with them a little. Like, you had the right, presumably to some degree. I mean, although I guess you could have been the right to publish and not, like, create. But you guys should have done something with it. It would have been amazing. And it just would have been bonkers. And, like, I don't know, I just really wanted that to happen. It would have been so cool, beyond Marvel could get some comics. Warhammer 40k would have the excuse to make some specialty miniatures of Marvel characters that are in 40k. Heck, you could give them, like, some non-official, or, like, only used in, like, open play rules. That'd be kind of cool. And all this to say is, they should have done something with it. It would have been great. And let's be honest here, after the PR nightmare that Games Workshop has been through, they could use a boost like this. So all this to say is, what do you want if they made a Warhammer Marvel 40k crossover? You know what I mean? Marvel 40k. Yeah, that's something I said, Anyway, please feel free to leave your opinions and thoughts in the comments. And anything else, see you next time. Oh, if any crossovers get made, you can thank me for it. Anyway, see you then. Yeah. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.